to go before we dive into it. Okay, I think we're good, y'all. What's up, guys? Welcome back here. Hopefully we're smooth sailing now. Apparently we had a little bit of connection problems there in the beginning, but it looks like we are good as of now. But what's up, everybody? Let's see who we got here today. We have Stormwatcher, we have Ponderosa, we have Tom, we have Samuel, Ghosted, Iam, let's see here, as well as Little Cam. What's up, guys? Hope everyone is doing pretty good today. So we got ourselves a bit of a severe weather threat today. All hazards will be a concern. Here, let's go ahead and turn on our cities here so we can go ahead and start seeing some of those regions there. So let's go ahead and turn on our settlements here. So today we have a slight risk, severe threat level 2 out of 5 here. Now, the main risk today is going to be up here across portions of the central northern side of New York State, as well as areas up there by central and northern Vermont. So we do got to look out there for the possibility for, like I mentioned, all hazards today. Tornado-wise, so for the Northeast, we're not really expecting much tornadic activity to occur. All areas are less than 2% here, but we do have this 2% risk out there for a couple of isolated tornadoes we cannot rule out here. Up across portions of like northern Michigan here, as well as, the upper state here as well. We do have this 2% chance. Now, we cannot forget there's actually another little 2% risk out there for tornadoes today up here across the northwestern side of North Dakota. So, tornadoes, while they are concerned today, they're not anything super, super wild. Now, damaging winds here, this is where, we really start to kind of get into the main threats here overall. So we do have this 15% risk overall for damaging winds here. And, across the yellow here, 5% chance across the brown, which, this is for a lot of the Great Lakes region here, as you guys can kind of see up here towards Wisconsin and Michigan, which we do, like I said, have a 15% risk out there, a level 2 threat for damaging winds. Now, in terms of gusts today, we are going to be mostly between 60 and 70 miles an hour overall regarding the potential for damaging wind gusts within the storms here. So we do got to look out there for that. We also do have that wind risk up here towards like western North Dakota and eastern portions of Montana. Then lastly, we also do have that 15% hail risk here. So for today, we are talking the potential here for all hazards like we mentioned here. The main concerns are going to be damaging winds and hail for today, with a couple of tornadoes being quite possible. So tomorrow is going to be a little bit more of a concern. We actually do have a pretty big slight risk here for tomorrow, as you guys can kind of see here, up across portions of, Minnesota, up there towards like the Dakotas, cutting through like Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, a little bit of like New Mexico and southeastern Colorado here. We do have a pretty big slight risk here for tomorrow that we really do need to look out for, as well as a pretty big marginal risk here up across, the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast here overall for tomorrow. But yeah, tomorrow's risk is actually fairly large. I mean, we got a pretty good size slight risk out here regarding that severe weather concern here overall. Now, tornado-wise, we do actually have a 5% chance for tornadoes here tomorrow. We actually have a pretty decent risk out there for tornadic activity here up across like the central and northern side of Minnesota. So if you're out there in Minnesota here tomorrow, we do need to be weather aware. Like we mentioned, there is going to be a pretty good shot for a couple of tornadoes out in the region here, with that 5% region in the brown here, indicating a pretty decent risk for tornadic activity. But generally speaking, it still is kind of on the lower side of the scale, but still, we do need to be watching out for that. Then, of course, we have that 2% risk, that low-end tornado risk that does extend into areas like Nebraska here, with that 2% chance that we do need to look out for as well. Let's see here. Currently feels like 105 where I'm at right now. Yeah, that's basically how it is here as well. It's very, very hot. It's been pretty hot here lately. What's up, Cheryl? Saying hello, everyone. Hot and humid in Texas. Yeah, we can relate here as well in Florida. It's a little toasty as usual, but hope you're doing good, my friends. Hope you are doing good. So, hopping over to the wind side of things. Now, tomorrow we actually got a pretty big risk for damaging winds here with that slight risk that we do have. So up here towards like northern Minnesota, we do actually have a hatch risk here for damaging winds. Now, this is signifying the possibility of, excessive winds in excess of, 70 miles an hour or so being possible. So that's something that we'll have to look out there for. Northern Minnesota is actually kind of like the main concern for tomorrow. Not only with that 5% tornado risk that we were just talking about, but also that hatch risk here for damaging winds tomorrow. Could definitely be a bit of a concern here. Look at this, including 75 plus mile an hour wind gusts here, and actually hail 2 inches in diameter and larger. Which when hopping over to our hail threat, we also do have a hatch risk here as well. So, really the hot spot tomorrow seems to be kind of like central and northern Minnesota. Now, the threat, like you mentioned, extends throughout the plains, the northern central plains and the upper Midwest, in which we definitely do need to be monitoring this here very closely. But yeah, so far from what it looks like, the main concern tomorrow is going to be up here across a lot of the central northern sides of Minnesota, which, this is a pretty high up risk here, being up in northern Minnesota. So, I mean, that's pretty high up there. So yeah, tomorrow we definitely do need to be weather aware, and we might initiate some coverage. We'll have to see what happens, but yeah, definitely a pretty long risk here for tomorrow. We once again cannot forget about that marginal up here towards the Mid-Atlantic here as well as the Northeast here. Now, tornado-wise for them, there's no tornadic activity expected here for tomorrow up across the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. That's more of just a concern for a lot of the northern central plains in the upper Midwest here. Once again, that 5%, that big risk being up there towards central northern Minnesota. So, yeah, tomorrow's the day we do need to be actively weather aware here for Sunday. Now, working our way into Monday, we do have, yet again, another risk here, another slight risk, level 2 threat out of 5 here for Monday's commute here, including a little bit of northeastern Iowa, a little bit of southeastern Minnesota. Main threats here is actually going to be throughout a lot of central Wisconsin. With a pretty big slight risk out there, working its way up here into the upper state of Michigan, including northern Michigan as well, here in that slight risk overall. Now, there is no breakdown tornado-wise here, or damaging wind or hail-wise here for day 3. So we can just go off of the probability of severe weather, which indicates a 15% chance probability for severe weather across the yellow region here, and a 5% chance here up across the green area, being that marginal risk here. So that's what we got going on for the next 3 days. Now, let's take this into the extended range here a little bit. We're actually going to go ahead and work our way over here into Tuesday's concern. As of right now, Tuesday's looking pretty clear. Not really much going on for Tuesday. We are looking pretty good. Working our way over here into Wednesday, we're pretty good. Thursday, we're good. Let's see, Friday and Saturday. So, yeah, it's really the next 3 days that we have those slight risks here. Once again, today's risk just being that slight risk up in the northeast here. And, of course, tomorrow's risk out there being just this long, slight risk out there throughout the plains and, the upper Midwest and whatnot. And then, of course, working our way into Monday, we have that other slight risk here overall. So that is what we're looking at there SPC-wise for the next couple of days. Let's see here. This is the weirdest June I've ever seen. It's definitely interesting, isn't it? What's up, Scott? Hope you're doing good, my friend. What's up, Grumpy? Saying, let's see, what are the chances that the remains of the MCS hitting Massachusetts tomorrow morning? So, Massachusetts is under that marginal risk there, that level 1 severe weather threat. So it's definitely going to be possible for the for the severe weather impact. As we could definitely see a potential for a little bit of strong to potentially severe storms out there. Right now, for the region, though, we are in the, non-tornado risk area. So this is outside of the tornado risk concern. We do have a 5% chance for damaging winds here, as well as a 5% chance out there for hail. I mean, that's for the entire state of Massachusetts here. So, with that being said, I mean, yeah, hail, damaging winds is going to be the concerns here for tomorrow. The good news is, as of right now, there is no tornado risk here for the Northeast here for tomorrow's threat. But yeah, I mean, there will be the possibility for remnants and, a bit of severe weather associated with that, in which, we do have that marginal risk here from the Storm Prediction Center that we do need to look out there for. So just a bit of a heads up there, not just for Massachusetts, but for a lot of the Northeast here as well. We definitely need to look out for it. But once again, tomorrow's threat, the main concerns up here in the plains, in the upper Midwest and whatnot. So we do need to look out there for that. So let's hop our way over here into the flooding aspect of things. So for today, we do have ourselves just a couple of marginal risk here for flooding. Nothing really too wild today, flooding-wise. Up in the northeast here, we do have, just area here with that marginal, at least 5% chance probability for flooding up here across like central and northern New York State, going into Vermont, New Hampshire, and a little bit of western Maine. So if you're in these regions here and you're in an area that's prone to flooding, so keep it out there for that if you are. We have another one up here for the upper state of Michigan, as you can kind of see here. We do have ourselves, yet again, another marginal, at least 5% risk out there for flooding. And then lastly, we have a little itty-bitty one up here in northwestern Montana here with another, at least 5% risk out there for flooding. So at least today, flooding risk-wise, not really anything super crazy. Now, for tomorrow, up here in northern Minnesota, where that main severe weather threat is, the Weather Prediction Center has actually pulled a marginal risk here. Once again, at least a 5% chance overall for flooding here up across like northern Minnesota, as well as working our way over here into like eastern New Mexico. We do have this, also that marginal risk there as well. And, of course, we cannot forget the far western side of Texas, which actually has a slight risk, a level 2 flooding threat out there, at least a 15% risk out there, which a lot of these areas are relatively rural, but not really a lot of people out here, but still is a decent risk out there for flooding. So, like western Texas here tomorrow will be a concern. So, then working into Monday. Now, Monday, actually, we have a pretty decent risk for flooding, as you guys can kind of see here. We have a pretty big slight risk, actually two pretty big slight risks here for flooding indicated here in the yellow up across portions of like New Mexico, western Texas again here for Monday. Then, of course, this works its way up here into areas like, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, a little bit of southwestern Wisconsin here as well. And once again, another level 2 threat out there for flooding, which indicates at least a 15% risk out there for flooding. So pretty decent. It is a pretty decent risk overall here for flooding here for Monday. So if you guys are in the regions here that's highlighted on the map here with the level 1 threat in the green, the level 2 threat here in the yellow, you should be monitoring it, especially if you're in an area that is prone to flooding, as flooding will be a bit of a concern here for Monday, as you guys can see here. So Tuesday as well, kind of a lot of the same areas, a little bit further up north here. We do have 2 slight risk here, at least that 15% risk for flooding. Of course, the green still that 5% risk here overall here for Tuesday. Which is going to be another day for severe weather, another day for flooding potential that we do need to look out there for. And then lastly, working our way over here into, I believe, was it Tuesday? Hold on a minute. So today's Saturday, day 1, day 2, Sunday, day 3 will be Monday, day 4 will be Tuesday. So yeah, day 5 would be Wednesday, in which we do have ourselves, another slight risk out there towards the upper Midwest here once again. So it does look like in the extended range, relative extended range, days like 3 to 5, we do have a pretty decent chance out there for flooding, overall. So we do need to be actively watching that flooding concern up here, as, we do have a decent risk for quite a bit of precipitation rolling its way here into the region here. Let's see here. John saying, hey, quick question. Man, if you have a question, you don't got to say you have a question. You can just ask it. But go ahead, man. Let's see here. Is the slight risk here for today, or is it for late tonight or / tomorrow morning? So it's going to be very, very early overall. This is mostly for tomorrow morning here. If I go ahead and hop you guys over here to the models, you can actually see up here in the northeast here. The time's on the top left here in Eastern time. Not a whole lot going on in the evening today up in the northeast. I mean, you can see maybe an isolated shower or storm, or storm or two could be a possibility according to HRRR. But the main kind of front here is going to be rolling in really early, just before sunrise here. HRRR kind of suggests those storms possibly rolling into the region here, maybe around anywhere from 2 to 4 a.m. Eastern time, which that's going to be fairly early. But then, of course, just does definitely drag in some pretty strong to potentially severe storms like we mentioned here with that slight risk that we do have overall. There's a bit of a capping inversion in a sounding like that here. Let's go ahead and grab another sounding right ahead of that front here. It does seem like there's a bit of a capping inversion here, which is certainly pretty interesting here. Let me grab a broad... Oh, maybe it won't let me. Hold on a minute. Let's do a little bit smaller of one here. Oh, I guess it's still not wanting to do the broad scan. There we go. Wow. It does look like there's a bit of a capping inversion, though, which could be a little difficult for some storms to fire off. We'll have to see what ends up happening. I mean, once again, SPC does have that slight risk there, so obviously something is forecasted to give. But yeah, so just, it is going to be relatively early, though, like we mentioned here. I mean, this is very, very early, before sunrise here, and well after midnight. So that is something that we do need to look out there for. Let's see here. Just joined any severe weather for Dayton, Ohio. So as of right now, Ohio's in the clear for the most part. Not a whole lot going on here severe weather-wise. Today, we're looking pretty good. Nothing going on here. Tomorrow and the day after, we have nothing severe going on up in Ohio. So we're pretty good. Let's see here. What's up, Polly? Welcome, welcome. Good to have you here, my friend. Hope you're doing well. Let's see here. What's up, Catloaf? Welcome. Tabletop, anything for North Carolina? No, man. We're doing pretty good. Everything is looking chill as of right now. We do have a thunderstorm risk out there today. But that's about it. Possibility for a couple booms of thunder here. Can't rule that out. But yeah, I mean, really, the next 3 days, not really anything severe expected. I mean, even the next extended range, because as of right now, SPC does not have any extended range forecasts here. So days 4 to 8, we are clear as of right now. Days 1 to 3, we do have those back to back. Back to back slight risks out there, for severe weather here. But yeah, not for your area. You're looking pretty good. Not really much going on there. So I do want to draw attention down a little bit here. As you guys may or may not have noticed, we do have this red circle in the EPAC. You might be wondering what that is. Well, that's actually a new area of tropical possibility of development. So this is actually a 70% chance here of overall development here in the next 7 days here in the tropics in the Eastern Pacific. We do have ourselves this area we're watching. Now, throughout the next 2 days or the next 48 hours, we are not expecting any tropical development here. So we're not expecting the system to, do anything within the next 48 hours. However, over the next week here, we do have a pretty likelihood, 70% chance probability here of tropical development here. So in the Eastern Pacific, we do need to be watching this. The EPAC has actually been popping off quite a bit lately. I don't know if you guys have been noticing it, but yeah, I mean, we just had that hurricane that made landfall in southern Mexico here not too long ago. But yeah, we got another storm that we're actively watching here. So we're actually going to direct y'all's attention over here to the models. We're going to take a look at that real quickly. We're going to bring up the GFS here in the EPAC. We're going to take a look at that right now. So let's go ahead and bring y'all over here to the Eastern Pacific. So once again, time's in the top left if you guys do want to follow along here. So we work our way down in time. According to GFS, things actually pop off here pretty quickly. You can see right as we approach our way right around the 23rd and 24th, it looks like that's kind of when GFS starts to suggest maybe a bit of activity starting to occur overall. So that is something that we do need to look out there for. So it does look like relatively after that 48-hour period is when things could start really developing here. So I do expect that probability within the next 48 hours to increase here within the next day or so. But yeah, according to GFS here, we work our way down in time here. It kind of temporarily loses strength from the latest models. You can kind of see here, it has it developing right around the 23rd, 24th, possible tropical storm from GFS here. Then it looks like it runs into a little bit of issues here, which causes it to weaken a little bit. Let's do a little bit more of an analysis here. Doesn't look like moisture is much of an issue here. I mean, it does look like we do have a relative decent amount of moisture going on throughout the atmosphere. You can see indicated in this blue here, representing a fair amount of moisture. The brown areas, this is where it's very dry. If we grab a sounding, you can see the big spread between our dew point and our temperature lines here on the SKUT chart, which indicates very, very dry conditions, as you can kind of see. Maybe a little cloud layer down in the lower levels. But, yeah, I mean, definitely very, very dry. But over in this region, you can see that we are relatively saturated. You can see that the lines between your dew point and our temperature are pretty close together, indicating high relative humidity throughout the atmosphere, which is good for, tropical development and whatnot. So it doesn't look like that this is a concern for moisture levels anyways, and I doubt it's a concern for the sea surface temperatures here as well. If we take a look here in the EPAC, overall with the sea surface temperatures, yeah, I mean, this whole region here is relatively good. I mean, you can see that we do have those temperatures here well into the 28, 30 degrees Celsius range. I mean, definitely quite warm water. So it's not that either. It's not the fact. What that's leading me to believe is probably a wind shear concern is probably why that storm isn't really kicking up as quickly, or kind of does, fade out a little bit here according to the GFS model here. Let's take a look at the wind shear here, kind of see what we got going on here overall. Yeah, I mean, it does definitely look like it could run into maybe a little bit of wind shear here. Maybe that could be partially why the storm possibly could weaken a little bit here, is maybe just a little bit of wind shear it runs into. Could cause things to maybe, destabilize a little bit here. So that does kind of seem like the main concern. Once again, moisture is not really the issue here. I mean, it's definitely, we have enough moisture in the atmosphere, as well as these sea surface temperatures are definitely warm enough here. But GFS in the extended range, we can't go too far because, the further you go, the more inconsistent, more inaccurate it tends to be. But according to GFS, as of right now, doesn't appear to be anything major or anything super significant. GFS as of right now kind of shows maybe tropical storm status, but we'll have to see. Let's take a peek at the Euro here. It's good to obviously compare the models. It's never good to just go off of one. So we're going to hop to the 0 Zulu from earlier this morning here. We're going to take a look at that. That's our latest full run here. The ECMWF, whoa. Okay, that's very interesting. For once, it's actually Euro that's being a little bit more aggressive than the GFS here. You can kind of see once we approach our way here, right around the 27th, it looks like that's whenever Euro has this thing possibly strengthening in the hurricane status. Also, one thing I will note is that the European model here does indicate that system maybe getting a little bit closer to Mexico here, as opposed to the GFS here. You can see that the GFS here, we'll go back to real quickly, was a little bit further away. I mean, maybe not too much further, but a little bit further to the south here, as you can see, and definitely not as strong as what the Euro was kind of suggesting here. I mean, even in the 06 Zulu run here, the Euro does have this thing potentially becoming a little bit more stronger here. So, I mean, it does look like the European model does want a little bit more of a stronger system here out of this here, at least maybe in the longer range here overall, which we'll have to see. Let's take a peek at the CMC model. Once again, the more the merrier. It's obviously good to look at the different models here. Yeah, this is actually really interesting. The CMC actually tends to agree more with the Euro here. The ECMWF, it does seem to agree a little bit more, actually showing a bit of that strengthening happening here right around the 27th, as kind of what the Euro did suggest. So that's 2 for the Euro's mode, and that's 1 for GFS, and GFS is kind of looking a little bit on the outcast as of right now, but we'll have to see. But yeah, I mean, the CMC does kind of agree with the Euro in the fact that does pick up a bit. Then lastly, we'll take a look here at the icon and see what the icon does suggest. And well, yeah, icon doesn't really have the system here as becoming aggressive here as we approach our way through the 27th and whatnot. This kind of agrees more with the GFS here. So, the verdict is it's a little early to tell right now. There's 2 possible scenarios from what these models are suggesting. One, that the system could get a little bit closer to Mexico and potentially become a little bit stronger, or it could go a little bit further south and likely remain not as strong. Like I said, the icon and the GFS model go with that approach, while the European model and the CMC kind of go with the more aggressive approach here. But the good news is, at least from what we are seeing now, it doesn't appear to be anything super significant. But I wouldn't rule it out. We should have southern Mexico watch the storm system here, as it could cause some issues. With further development, we could see some more information come through, which could make it a little bit more concerning or whatnot. But southern Mexico should watch it, although I wouldn't stress over it right now because it is still a little bit unknown here. And most of the models, like I said, it's kind of a half-half scenario, and even worst-case scenario here from like Euro and the CMC kind of suggests maybe strong tropical storm, low-end hurricane potential. So it is a little bit iffy right now. But anyways, so we'll keep an eye on the tropics here. I did just definitely want to mention that here real quickly. I know the main part of the stream here is about the severe weather, but it's obviously good to take a peek at everything going on here. You know what? Actually, since we're on the tropics here, I'll go ahead and bring it up here. There's nothing going on in the North Atlantic, really. We've actually been fairly quiet so far. Hurricane season's been officially going on for 20 days at this point. We've had no activity really going on. At least nothing tropical. We've had a couple subtropical, probabilities that we've seen a while back. But yeah, regarding the the activity here in the, we can't really go too far here, in the North Atlantic. There's really not much going on here. Everything's looking pretty good. One thing I will tell you though is that here in the Gulf, you can actually see those sea surface temperatures are very, very hot. They are already primed and ready to go. They are already hot enough for tropical development here. Now, the Caribbean waters are actually a little bit cooler, believe it or not. The Gulf is actually taking the lead here for a lot of the heat. You can see that a lot of the Gulf here, we're talking 29, 30 degrees Celsius waters, which I believe that's upper 80s, if I'm not mistaken. That's very, very warm. Very, very warm waters out there in the Gulf. But yeah, look at the Southern Caribbean here. You can kind of see we are talking, kind of more of 27, 28 degrees Celsius as opposed to the Gulf, 29, 30 degrees Celsius water. So the Gulf is very hot right now. Very, very, very hot. Now, if conditions were right, if we get a strong cluster of thunderstorms that rolls over, associated with the low, if conditions are right. I'm not saying that there is anything going on right now, which there's not in the Atlantic or in the Gulf here. But I'm just saying that, based off the sea surface temperatures, they're ready to go. That they are. And, of course, if all the other conditions were right, if we had some, enough moisture, lack of wind shear, and everything, then yeah, and it could be something to look out for. But as of right now, like I mentioned, the Atlantic is pretty chill. Yeah, there's really not a lot going on out here in the Atlantic currently. But yeah, all eyes right now, tropical wise, are in the Eastern Pacific with that one system with the overall 70% chance probability. Anyways, guess you missed that hurricane in Mexico. Yeah, it did impact southern Mexico. Just the other day, it was I think it was a Category 3, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't it? Somebody correct me if I'm wrong on that. I'm not entirely sure. I wasn't keeping up. That was kind of on my break period for a while, but now that we're back here, but yeah, no, it did impact southern Mexico. Let's see here. What's up, Frankie? Hope you're doing good, my friend. Is Texas gonna get any rain soon? We need it. Yeah, there's possibilities here. Here, let's bring back up our models here real quickly. So, there is going to be that possibility here. Let's actually bring up our moisture. You can kind of see that there's a lot of dry air, a bit of a dry air mass here over Texas lately. It's been pretty dry, as you can see. That's going to continue for a little bit, but it does look like possibly as we work our way over here into kind of later this week, maybe we could start to build in maybe a little bit more moisture. We'll have to look out for. But, there is the possibility for storms for the next couple of days out here in Texas. So, we can't rule it out. There is going to be that possibility. You can see on the SPC Day 1 here, we do have a lot of Texas included, except for like the north central, northeastern side of the state here. But yeah, we do have a pretty big general thunderstorm risk here. Tomorrow, West Texas does have that severe weather threat here for Sunday. And of course, Monday, we do have some more general thunderstorm risks here. So, yeah, it's going to be possible. But it does look like we are in a bit of a dry period here as well. So that is something that we'll have to look out there for. It also looks like out here by Florida, we're getting ready to roll into some dry air. It looks like you can kind of see here. lately we've been actually pretty saturated. Looks like we do have a bit of dry air that's going to be working its way over the Florida region here pretty soon, which should be replaced by more moisture in the future. So for us, that's pretty nice. But anyways. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know. Like I mentioned here, we're here for you guys. If there's any zip codes or anything like that you guys want me to take a look at, if y'all want me to look at your severe weather risk here for today, tomorrow, the day after, whatever, just let me know. We're here for you. Now's the time for questions if y'all have any. I pretty much got everything out of the way that we really need to talk about here. The tropics, severe weather-wise, and everything like that. One thing I do want to do real quickly, though, is I do want to take a look at the parameters here, at least for today. For the severe weather potential here. Looking over at the HRRR, we got the, 18 Zulu rendering here. You can kind of see as we work our way into tonight, according to the HRRR, look at that. We actually build in a pretty good amount of instability here. Look at that. I mean, we're talking maybe a good 3,000 to 4,000 joules per kilogram of mixed layer instability here. Like, that's a lot of fuel. That's a lot of potential fuel here out there in the Northeast here for today. So we'll need to look out there for that. Dew points here, wow, very, very high dew points for the North. I mean, look at that. We're talking dew points here in the mid 70s, which that's pretty high. Really good amounts of moisture, the surface moisture here. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Really good dew points out there. Really good amounts of instability. Let's look at kinematics here. Let's go ahead and bring up our the WRAP model here. So looking at our lower level wind profile here. Looks like we're going to be mostly easterly flow. It looks like we're going mostly winds are going to the east here. Right at around anywhere from 30, at least going on. Oh, wait, hold on. Am I a little too far here? No, we're good. Oh, yeah, this is the 09 Zulu. Okay, that was a little bit questioning time there for a second, but no, we're good. But yeah, later tonight though, we are looking like we are gonna have some easterly winds here, roughly pretty strong actually. Good 50 knots or so. Here, let's bring up our instability again here. Am I getting the days mixed up here? Hold on, this is for late Sunday night, where a lot of that instability is going to be at play. Yeah, let's get my time mixed up a little bit. My bad. Yeah, so later tonight, or tomorrow night here for kind of later Sunday here, we do have a pretty good amount of instability here. Here for tonight, you can see we do have ourselves, a decent amount of instability here. But it looks like a lot of that fuel really builds in for later Sunday overall. See, lower level winds here. We are cruising a good 30, maybe 40 knots or so easterly winds. Winds going to the east here. Our mid-level flow going to the southeast here. Yeah, not really much of a tornadic concern based off of our wind profile here, which is pretty nice. But other hazards would certainly be a concern. Let's grab a sounding here for kind of the afternoon here for tomorrow, being Sunday. Kind of see what we got going on here. Yeah, so look at that. Pretty good amount of instability here that we got going on out there. You can see that our vertical column here on our SQT plot, you can see that we have pretty good amounts of instability here. I mean, our equilibrium level goes up. Wow, that's like 14 kilometers high. So there's going to be possibly some pretty big storm tops with these, which is certainly very interesting here. DKP here, we're talking almost 1,300 joules. That's pretty high end. I mean, our lower level profile wind shear is, like I mentioned, about 35, 40 knots or so. Dew points here in the mid 70s here in the lower levels. Relatively dry mid-level atmosphere. Yeah, I mean, that does scream a bit of a hail concern from a sounding like this here. So a bit of a hail concern as well as damaging winds. Yeah, that does seem to be kind of the main concern on the sounding like this here. Tornado-wise, not much. Not really a super much of a concern for tornado-wise. But anyways, but yeah, definitely pretty decent sounding, at least for hail and for damaging winds and whatnot. So, but yeah, I mean, we definitely do build in a pretty good amount of instability out here. I mean, look at that. That's pretty high end. Anyways, let's see here. Ghosted says no more dry air for Florida. Yeah, that is unfortunately going to be a bit of a concern here for Florida. You can kind of see this is our humidity from lower-ish levels of the atmosphere to mid-atmosphere. Yeah, you can see that here soon. We're going to start to build in a little bit of dry air here right around the 24th, 25th, 26th. But don't worry, it does look like we could have some more moisture soon to follow. I mean, this is a little bit further out, but yeah, it will likely be replaced with some more moisture. Now, given the dryness here, there still could be some thunderstorm activity here. Let me grab a sounding here. Yeah, I mean, despite the mid-level dryness that we do have, it does look like we actually still could have. I mean, there's a bit of a cap here, but if we can break that, I still think this is an environment where storms could even happen, despite a lot of the mid-level dryness. Let's see, the further south that we go, it looks like the cap is a little bit less. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, obviously, I was actually looking at the Weather Service's forecast discussion as well, and they kind of mentioned the same thing, that despite the dry air mass rolling in with this ridge that we have coming through, this high pressure, there is going to be enough moisture still, at least in our lower levels, to allow for that. I mean, look at this. I mean, if you look at our lower levels, I mean, our dew points are still in the 60s. Pretty big dew point. Pretty big dew point depression, given the fact that our dew points and our ambient temperatures are pretty far spread apart, indicating relatively low in humidity. But I still think that it's certainly possible. Look at that. 850 to 300 millibar humidity is at 26%. So that's from this layer right here. So this is 850 all the way up to 300. So this is basically in this level. This is indicating an average of right around 26% humidity here. Believe it or not, PWatt's still pretty high at 1.21. Anyways, I'm kind of getting a little bit too in-depth here. But yeah, regardless, there still could be some storms. Despite the dryness kind of rolling in here. So that's good. Still typical Florida season, Let's see here. It might not be as sporadic, though, as it has been for the last couple of days. I mean, Florida's been getting some pretty good storms lately, last couple of days. Let's see. My side hasn't had a decent thunderstorm in forever. That's fair. That is fair. Yeah, where I'm at here in Polk County, we got a pretty good amount of rain actually yesterday. Actually, we had a nice steady rain, which was super nice, super nice here. I'm very thankful for that. That's for sure. But anyways, folks, hopping back to severe weather-wise here. Once again, tomorrow we do need to be weather aware. Like I said, we do have a pretty big slight risk out there. A pretty big level 2 threat for severe weather here, which does extend through the plains, the upper Midwest and whatnot here. So, we do definitely need to be weather aware out here. Main concern, once again, tomorrow is actually Minnesota. Minnesota is the main concern for tomorrow for the central and northern side of the state here. We do have a 5% chance overall up here across portions of, once again, central and northern Minnesota here, a little bit of the eastern Dakotas. And that 2% does extend into the eastern side of the Dakotas, into even Nebraska here, and up in northern Wisconsin and upper state Michigan. So, a little bit of tornadic activity tomorrow can't be ruled out then. Let's take a peek at the models, actually. We're gonna hop away over here into tomorrow's concern on the models here. Kind of see what we got going on. Ooh, you know what? Tonight, there is a really good amount of instability out here. Here, let's see if we can pull up a pretty nice view of this here. I swear, it seems like there's not a perfect view for this area here. Here, let's hop over to Minnesota. I feel like it's either on the far right-hand side or on the far left-hand side. There is no good middle point. But Look at our threat tomorrow here for Sunday. You can kind of see that we do have, a decent amount of instability building into the region here. According to HRRR, we are talking a good 2 to 3,000 joules per kilogram of mixed layer instability here. That's a pretty good amount of fuel for thunderstorm activity here. So that's that. Dew point temperatures here, dew points are well into the 70s, which is great. Surface dew points here of that magnitude is pretty good for storms, especially with our temperature not being super far off from that, a good 10 degrees or 10 degrees or so. But you know what? It's like, that's a pretty good amount of moisture. That really is, good amount of moisture, good amount of instability. Let's hop over to the NAM here, kind of see, oops, looks like NAM did not like that view that we had, so let's bring up this one. You know what, NAM even shows a bit more instability, look at that. It is the NAM after all, but but yeah, good 4,000 joules, that's pretty good. That is actually pretty good. Looking at our lower level wind shear here, ooh, you know what, we got a 40 knot lower level jet here of northerlies here. Winds going to the north, I should say. You know what? Given that, I am not surprised there's a 5% risk here. Given that lower level jet here of about 40, maybe 45 knots in some areas, that's pretty decent. That is pretty decent. That's for late Sunday tomorrow, or kind of tomorrow evening, I should say. Mid-level flow here. We have winds to the northeast here. Our mid-level flow is about the same speed. But given its mid-level flow, it's actually on the lower side. But, still a good 40, 45 knots or so of mid-level flow. I mean, there is some veering you can see here. Let me bring up my pen here so you guys can see what I'm kind of talking about here. Give it a little bit more of a better graphical view. So here's our mid-level winds, right? So here tomorrow, you can see that our mid-level flow is kind of pushing in this direction here. And if we hop back to our lower level flow, you can actually see that our lower level winds are actually going more to the north here. So basically, it's like, our lower level winds are going to the north and our mid-level winds are changing direction to more to the east-northeast, right? So that in itself, that's showing a bit of a veering wind profile, and which can indeed induce a bit of spin in the atmosphere. Let's grab a sounding here. I'm really curious to see kind of what the NAM suggests here. I'm sure there's going to be some curvy hodos to it, given that veering profile. There you go. You can really see that here in our lower profile here. You can see in our lower skew-T chart that our surface winds are moving relatively north, and as you go up in altitude, they do kind of move more to the northeast here. Also, looking at our hodograph here in the top right, plotting the wind direction and wind speed over altitude, you can see that we do have a bit of curvature going on here, right? So you can see that those winds are indeed changing directions as we go up in altitude. And given that, you can actually see that curvature, that arch to it, does give a bit of a tornadic concern. Helicity values, the effective inflow layer is what I really like to use, is right around 183, or is that 163? That's 163. So given helicity, it's nothing super wild, like no super crazy, violent parameters or anything like that. But it is enough for potential tornadic activity here. We do have a relatively dry mid-level atmosphere here. Given an event like this here, also damaging winds would probably be a big concern. Indicating our decape parameter here over 1,000 joules, over 1,100. Given our lower level surface to 3 kilometer wind shear column here, you can see it's, pretty decent. So given strong decape and decent lower level wind profiles, it could definitely allow for some strong wind gusts, in which, actually the the SPC does have that hatch risk up there for that significant wind risk. They did mention 75 or greater wind speeds, you can see. So, yeah, that's pretty decent. 75 miles an hour or greater in terms of gusts tomorrow. They also did mention the possibility for 2-inch hail or more. Given a dry mid-level like we have with tons of instability, tons of cape like that, I mean, you could just see how it's pretty dry in 2 layers here. You can see that there's a little bit of more of a moist layer between 3 and 6 kilometers. It becomes a little bit more moistened, but there is a fair amount of dry air here. And an increasing amount of cape here is a little bit of a concern with that capping inversion, but we should be able to bust right through that. But you know what, though? I mean, it's like, yeah, that would be a sounding for a bit of concerning hail as well. Here, let's grab another sounding a little bit further north here. Let's grab one up, like, in the heart of that hail threat, and we'll see what's going on out there. What's up, Rick? Hope you're doing good, my friend. Sorry, I haven't been getting the comments as much as I really want to be. So, let's see. Dude's covering day weather. Yeah, I have been. I've been on a little bit of a break lately. I needed some time to myself for a while, but we're back in business. We're back up and running, y'all. But, wow. Holy cow, dude. That just went from 0 to 100 real quick on that sounding. Wow. All right, so first of all, one thing I want to mention is our lower level profile here. You can see, look at this. I mean, we're talking pretty strong veering going on here. Look at the photograph, that arch that we have up there in the top right here. Pretty good arching going on. Our effective inflow layer, storm relative helicity, is over 400. That's pretty high. That's actually very high. Am I reading this right? D-Cape is almost 2,000. What? Okay, that's pretty crazy. That's really high D-Cape. Like, I don't see that often, to be honest with you. I ain't gonna lie. I don't see values that high for D-Cape that often. But yeah, given high-end D-Cape parameters here and, really strong lower-level wind shear, damaging wind seems to be a big concern on a sounding like this here. Very, very dry mid-level atmosphere, lower mid-level and upper level. A good amount of instability here. Yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty concerning sounding here. Okay. It is also the NAM. I will say that. It is also the NAM. Here, let's grab one from the wrap model here. Kind of roughly in the same area here. It's good to look at different models. It's never good to just look at one, because like you got models like the NAM that likes to amplify things sometimes. Yeah, so D-Cape's still very high, but not as high, that 2,000 range we were just looking at here. Yeah, inflow layer helicity here is about 150 as opposed to that 400. Still, the skew T's are pretty close. I ain't gonna lie, they are. You can kind of see here the that little layer here between 3 and 6 kilometers again, where we do become a little bit more humid, a little bit more moisture filled, I should say. And you got those 2 drier layers, throughout mid-upper atmosphere and the lower mid-atmosphere. We have this little layer here, which that could induce some big hail. That really could. Yeah, I mean, dew point's still in the 70s here. Let's see here. Yeah, once again, D-Cape pretty high instability, and we're over 3,500 ml Cape. Mixed layer instability. That's a lot of fuel. There's not a whole lot of veering going on, though. You can kind of see that the photograph's pretty straight, almost linear. I would rule out tornadic activity on this, but yeah, that is really interesting. You can just kind of see this big low that we have, that big macro scale low that we have basically going on over here towards the northern plains here. That is super, super interesting. But anyways, get a little bit carried away, y'all. But yeah, so like I mentioned, tomorrow we do need to be definitely weather aware up in Minnesota. That does seem to be the biggest concern. Timing-wise, getting into the timing here for those storms, it does look like they will be firing off here relatively late, actually. HRRR here. Let's pull up the 18 Zulu here. This is mostly done. So we could have some storms firing off, obviously, kind of in the afternoon, evening. But the main event, yeah, I mean, look at this. This is oh 06 Zulu. This would be 2 a.m. Eastern, I believe. So 1 a.m. Central, local. And you can see that there's a lot of that storm activity firing off very late, like post midnight. But yeah, you can definitely see that there will possibly be some convection though in the afternoon, evening hours of tomorrow as well. But I don't know. Yeah, we'll have to look out for that. I mean, it looks like it's not very widespread per se. It looks fairly isolated. Like tomorrow's mode. We'll have to keep an eye on it. But anyways, folks, we're probably gonna roll off here soon. If there's any questions y'all might have before I roll off and head off for now, feel free to let me know. But I just kind of want to hop on here, do a little bit of analysis, and kind of just do a bit of a deep dive in what's going on here in the country and out of the country, with the tropics and stuff. And you guys know, like I said, we'll make sure you guys are staying weather updated and weather aware and everything. We'll keep you guys updated with everything that's going on here. Right, once again, a little bit of a recap with everything. The Atlantic's pretty calm. No tropical activity here. We do have the Eastern Pacific with a decent chance. Models are a little iffy as of right now. Could be a tropical storm. As of right now, nothing major really expected. Severe weather-wise over the next several days here, we do have, a bit of a concern in the Northeast today, a bit of the Great Lakes region here, a little bit of the Northern Plains. Tomorrow, we do have that pretty big threat that we probably should cover late. That big slight risk here throughout the plains and the upper Midwest. Then working into day 3 here for Monday, we do have yet again another risk for the Midwest. Central Plains working its way into the Great Lakes region here overall. Nothing in the extended range SPC outlook though overall. So, and also days 3 to 5, we do have a pretty decent flooding risk across a lot of these Central Plains and portions of the Midwest here. So if you guys are prone to flooding out there, just a bit of a heads up for you. Braven, I don't know exactly where you're at, my friend. Yeah, I don't remember where everybody's at, There's a lot of people that come in and go, so it's a little hard for me to remember everybody. So if you let me know, I can look for you. But yeah, guys, so if y'all have any questions, if y'all are curious if you're in the risk for severe weather in the next 3 days, feel free to throw down your zip code. I'll be more than happy to take that real quickly and plug it in and see if you're in the risk area here, just to make sure you guys are, weather aware and know what's going on in your region here. All right, there we go. Braven, gotcha. Well, maybe it wasn't typing there for some reason. Let's see here. Why is it not letting me type? Hold on. I'm going to have to use this one instead. It wasn't letting me use my number pad, which is weird. Okay, so today, oops. Here, let me just copy your zip code because it likes to mess up here. Here, let's try that again here. Okay, so for today, you do have a marginal risk for severe weather here. No tornadoes, 5% wind, and a 5% hail threat. Tomorrow, you're in a slight risk level 2 threat. 2% chance for tornadoes, 15% chance for damaging wind gusts, and a 15% chance for hail. Day 3 here from Monday, we are in a thunderstorm risk, nothing severe. So yeah, tomorrow's the day you got to really look out there for. Yeah, tomorrow I would certainly be weather aware for. But anyways, folks, well, that's probably going to wrap it up here for now. Once again, everybody, I appreciate y'all for joining. If you're new to the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button. And if you guys could leave a like, it'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you all so much for joining. If y'all could also share this channel as well, help spread the awareness that way we can keep you guys weather aware. Once again, we cover the main 48 and as well as both sides in the tropics here. We like to keep everybody updated, tropical weather, and severe weather related, because we're now in tropical season. It's now time to start paying attention in the tropics, because stuff can happen quick. So Anyways, folks, but thank you all for joining. Stream's going to head off here in approximately 1 minute. So go ahead and say goodbye to your friends, your family, anybody else you're hanging out with here in the chat. Once again, everybody, thank you all so much for joining. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day. And alrighty, we'll see you guys here in the next one. All right, peace out, my friends. Catch y'all later on.